Hello, welcome back. This is Brendan Lee from thebrendanlee.com in support of your consciousness and skill worldwide. And welcome. Glad you can be here or there. If you notice that there is already here. Anyway, doesn't matter. I have a letter. Thanks for the video. This is from another video that I posted. Could you comment about the concept/assumptions with respect to parents? What are the bottom line assumptions or overlooked beliefs one could have or people have about their parents? What is the concept of mum and dad? I'm assuming this is British. Mum. I feel it's an overlooked topic. Thank you for your questions. Let's consider the matter. Parents influence our experience to a massive degree. And I do suspect that people may not know exactly, may underestimate the power of the influence of parents, what we're calling parents. Now, one of the things in starting to investigate this matter, one of the things that comes up for me right away is that parents are not the bodies of the people that are your parents. You know, like if you have a mom and a mother and a father, a mom and dad, or a mom and dad out there, and you interact with them, you interact with what? You're interacting with a body and a mind and a person, and that person is not you, it's your father, mother. You see, now the reason that they are not the bodies is because your mom and dad can die and you'll still have mom and dad problems or not problems. You will still have a relationship with your mother after she goes away, or your father after they pass away. If you have a problem with them, the problem still persists. So then what does that tell us about some of the assumptions that exist about mom and dad? One, we might think that they are related to the other person. And we would be wrong about that. Why? Because they can die and we still have the same relationship to them. And I'm noticing that you have to be really careful, or I have to be really careful. I want to invite you to be careful. That when I say them, I said it in an offhanded way. The assumptions likely live right in the word, not in the word itself, but packaged in. When I say, if I have a relationship with them, the them in this case is my parents, and with that comes a lot of meaning and charge and concepts about my parents. Say, if I'm to put it in my own experience, the them is my parents, but where are they? They're not here. I actually live thousands of miles away from my parents, and one of the things that could be the case right now is they could be dead. Like they really could, and I wouldn't know. And yet still I continue to relate to my mom and my dad the same way that I have been for years. So the parents are not the other people, although we apply what we know as parents to those individuals and then relate to them accordingly. Now, in attempting to answer the question, it's like, what are some of the concepts and the assumptions about parents that people have? They can be, as far as I can tell, it's varied. You know, people could have all kinds of assumptions about parents. Now, with assumptions, there seems to be stuff that you and I agree on, generally speaking, like as a human race. Like, I'm over here, you're over there. I'm alive, I have a body. We live in a world of objects. There's space. All of this stuff are things that we agree on. Now, there are cultural assumptions about parents that we would agree on in our cultures together. like maybe a European and Western culture, we have certain ways of relating to parents that help dictate our relationship to our parents. Now, what these ways are exactly, I am not sure, although, for example, I see in, say, Mexican culture, there's a much more family-oriented relationship. In other cultures, it's like the father is the one that you revere and you listen to the father no matter what. In different cultures, it's the woman who runs the show. I'm just imagining an African culture where I think there's very matriarchal. And so relationships to those individuals will be different. Now, this is not specifically parents, although the fact that they are a man or a woman in that culture will dictate how you relate to them, and plus the whole parents thing. There will be cultural assumptions about how you treat your parents or how one treats their parents. Now, what those are specifically, I'm not sure without a lot of investigation. So I invite you to do that. Let me know. And yeah, check it out. So what are the bottom line assumptions and overlooked beliefs one could have or people have about their parents? So some of the ones I can come up with right away is, one, we assume that it's related to the other people that are there, the bodies. I assume that the way that they treat me might be I assume that they are my parents. Oh, what does that even mean? I'm just sensing maybe a confusion there. That the fact that I call this individual a parent is an assumption itself, not that they could biologically not be my parents by biology standards, but that's more like a fact. I could have somebody that is my parent that's not even biologically my parent, and I would relate to them like my parent. So then what I'm saying is that the parent itself is a very powerful concept that gets created, likely from a very young age, about what that is. And then it's applied to a person. The people that I see when I come out of the womb, and there they are, and somehow I start relating to that. And I'm also sensing another aspect that is likely very primal, where I am attached to these individuals and also learning how to build reality based on their minds. Like my father would always tell me, look, Brendan, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He would always say this to me, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I would always be like, no, Dad, you're wrong, and da-da-da-da-da. No, he was right. Because I learned later in life, in my investigations, my own experience, my own self, that when I would really dig into my own experience, I found stuff about me. I'm like, God damn it, that's my father. And whole aspects of the way my mind works and feelings and mental emotional states. I'm like, that's my father. Or that's my mother. Holy crap. It's like I'm living my parents powerfully. You see, it's like I take inspiration, ways of thinking and holding the world that don't come as if from me. They come from my parents. Which is one of the reasons why, or one of the considerations I hold when I am watching many of my friends and acquaintances have children now, and they're raising these children up, and then I see some of the things they're doing with their children, and I'm very aware that child is creating reality based on what it sees and senses, and it senses, as far as I can tell, way more than the parents would probably likely want to know. And whatever the parent is doing, that kid is going to do that. It is going to learn that way of seeing, that way of thinking, that way of relating, is going to learn that. So no matter what you do, and as far as I can tell, the good and the bad are going to come together, and that's all going to be developed by the child into a reality that includes those aspects. And there is nothing you can do about that, which makes it a challenge. So now I cannot say in great detail specifically what assumptions are there, but I can invite you to question the assumptions for yourself using such questions as, I may use the question like, what are parents? You see, what are parents? What is that? And it really seems to boil down to a relationship to something we're calling parents. Now that something is likely full of the assumptions. You know, like, let's see if I can do some. Just like, yeah, it's like, say I could have a father, this is totally hypothetical, you know, who the way that I view that person will be dictated by the assumptions that I have about them. So that it's like, if I have a parent and I go, well, they did something wrong, and then I assumed that they were a certain way, and that assumption then becomes fixed, I will relate to them with that fixed assumption. Now I may learn, like, have you ever had a chance to you be relating to somebody from a certain perspective and certain assumptions about the way that they are, and then later on realize that you were wrong, or you get a story from them and it shatters your, oh my God, I've been relating to them totally differently than what's really there, and then boom, the whole perspective changes. One example of this is I used to work in a restaurant. There was a guy in there who clearly saw me a certain way based on whatever assumptions he had about my character. And he was an angry person. And eventually, he actually came up to me and he apologized. Like, my God, man, I'm sorry. I don't know what was going on, but he said something like, I saw you a certain way and I really didn't like it, but I was wrong about that. I'm sorry. And from that day forward, his whole perspective changed. He realized something about what he was assuming to be true of me, and then was able to let it go, and thus, boom, change his perspective. That's an example. I mean, it's a nice story, and puffs me up a little bit as a whatever image you may hold as a nice person or something like that. But the example is for the letting go of the assumption and the changing of perspective. That is why I brought that up. Now, see, so what do you think is true about your parents? Like, are they a bad parent? Are they a good parent? Are they a good person? See, one of the things I've had to realize over time is that my parents are people. When I started to look more to my parents as people, I started to like people like me. As I got older, it's like, whatever, I'm 35 now. My parents, I think my mother had me around 32. So I imagined having a child at 32, where am I at in my life at 30s, and questioning, wow. So this is, I'm in my early 30s. I don't know squat still. And I'm having a kid, and now I've got to raise another human being. So it really allowed me a bit of compassion towards my mother in the sense that she is raising somebody at an age that's like mine. And then so I try to get, okay, no, it's like me. My parents are like me. They're not my parents. They're like a person. I don't think we let our parents be people usually. They're always mom and dad. And likely the same way, I presume that for parents, I will always be the son. I won't be me in their eyes. I will always carry a certain relationship with them in their eyes because they have made me their son, when it is not true. Yes, biologically, there was a hen and a hen and a hen and the conception and all that stuff, right? Okay, they had sex and I came out later. And they made me their son. But I don't think that has anything to do with the biology, except for, now I'm just nerding out here, please don't take this very far. This is intellectual at this point. I suspect there's biological stuff that, that happens. I hear tell with women, when they have a child, they see the child and the body produces all these chemicals and then boom, they form a strong attachment real quick. And I can see why that is. That's obviously for survival, because you don't want the mom throwing away the babies. Dads probably similar, families have, anyway, it doesn't matter. So there's that biological aspect, but then how I view that person, how I think of that person is going to be massively influenced by what I think they are up to and how I think they are, plus my culture and all that stuff. So in order to uncover this, I would recommend going through a period of questioning, however long you want to, but ask, what are parents? In your experience, yes, this is the tricky part. Okay, in your experience, what are your parents? Not like a concept of your parents. Yes, but the experience of the concept. Like, okay, here are the concepts I have about my parents. Yep. Okay. Yeah, they're like this. They're like that. Yeah, but the experience of that is like it's an image in my mind. You see, but now what's the real experience of parents? Like, where did they live? Yeah, but they live, they live in Vermont. Yeah, but I could destroy that argument with my very first argument of, well, if they died, you'd still have your parent problems, wouldn't you? Well, yeah. Is there anybody out there whose parents have died and then all of a sudden all their problems with them are resolved? See? And no, they don't get resolved just because your parents die. They get resolved because you resolve them within yourself. That's how you resolve that stuff. Now, how do you go about resolving that stuff? It seems necessary, and once you can get over if you make them responsible for how you feel, there is no resolution possible because it is outside of your control. It's them, it's not you. Now, if you can go over that hurdle, which I'm assuming because you're listening to this video at this point, you should be past that by now, but if you're not, get responsible. It's you. It's not your parents' fault. It's you who's got the problem, not your parents. Even if your parents did some real sick shit, it's your problem. It's you. I'm sorry. Especially if you've gone through some really sick crap. I'm sorry. But it's on you to fix that. You can't fix it by changing them. You can fix it by changing you and your experience, but it's not them. Case in point, if they die, the problem doesn't go away. Now, in order to question these matters deeply, here is a questioning that can be useful toward that end. You see, what you could do is you pick an aspect of your relationship with your parents that say you don't like. Pick something specific. So you can ask yourself, if you don't have something specific, you can ask yourself, like, what aspects, pick your mother or your father. Now, is there an aspect of your relationship with your mother that you dislike? We call this bottom line contemplation. Okay, good. You pick something like that specifically. Now the question is, what's underneath that in you about that relationship? Like, what's going on with you about that? And then focus on that and then question, now what's behind that? What's underneath that reaction? And then even further past that, you get down to, you keep going, what's behind that? What's behind that? Not like an explanation or a story. That's more like that's more like a lateral move, so to speak. I don't want to make a serious model here. See, but the explanation of the story doesn't cut it. I'm talking about your experience of what's going on with you, not a story about what's going on with you, but the actual experience. And then go behind that experience and go, now, what's really the case with me? And then once you get to the bottom line, now what way, the question can become, now what way are you such that that is the case in the first place? Like, what way are you such that that is even the case about your relationship with your parents? See, like, and that way that you are will show up as a way that you are being, not as a good or a bad, but just as like it's this is the case. See, like, to use a really weird example, if I'm having a problem because, you know, I'm hanging out and cars keep driving over me, and then cars keep driving over me, and I'm stretched out across a long distance of water, and cars keep driving over me. And I've got a problem with this because it doesn't feel good. First, I blame the cars. Oh, it's your fault. You keep driving on me. But then I dig deeper and I start to realize, ow, I'm in a lot of pain. And then I dig deeper than that and I start to go, well, what way am I such that I'm even in pain in the first place? And I realize that I'm being a bridge. I know this is a bad example, or metaphor. Then I realize, I'm being a bridge. That's why the cars, because I'm the bridge. Of course cars are going to drive over. I'm being a bridge. See, so it's like in relationship to your parents, what way are you such that you have that relationship in the first place? And you will start to uncover assumptions about yourself that you think are really true in relationship to parents, and that will start to change your perspective on parents if you can really do what I'm asking and really uncover the assumptions experientially, not just intellectually. Unfortunately, videos and doing stuff online really lends itself well to intellectualizing, as I have seen time and time again. That is not my intent here at all. And I'm sorry that it's in the form of a video. It would be much more powerful if you came to a live workshop and or do the work yourself like a serious mother, like a serious person with massive intent. That would be useful for your own work. So now getting back to, I feel like a slight digression, but on track. Getting back to the question, like, what assumptions are there about parents? Use the power of questioning to start to consider the matter. Like, all right, what are my parents? Now you could go, what are parents themselves? You know, what is parents? What is that? It's a concept. Okay, now what allows that concept to be the way that it is? And then I think that starts to open up the questioning in a more powerful and more deep level, where you start to try to uncover the foundations of parents itself. Now, I'm not talking about psychological foundations here. I'm talking about actual foundations. You know, what are the foundations of parents? What is parents? Not like, why are parents in some psychological paradigm, or what is the moral value of parents that's bringing value into the mix. I'm not interested in that. Is what are they? What is parents? What allows parents to be parents? Period. And if you continue in this way, you will likely start to uncover many assumptions, which could then push you on down the road and encourage you to do that more of that work. And you may find something interesting. You may find something freeing. Just saying. Okay. So I appreciate the questions. I'm not certain how valuable this video has been, although I intend to post it anyway. And I hope that has added something to your considerations and contemplations regarding parents, and hopefully offered you a doorway to potentially get free or transcend that whole business and free yourself up from your parents to, and which may improve the quality of your life. Just saying. But you should check it out on your own, as always. So thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure. Brendan Lee from thebrendanlee.com in service of consciousness and skill worldwide. Have a good one. Bye.